everybody, my name's Cara on Fire and welcome to a resource guide on Dune Awakening. This video will cover iron, carbon ore, erythrite, aluminium basalt, titanium and stravidium. I'm sure most of you know how to get copper, but if you don't, copper can be found in every region of the map pretty much. It is this lovely blue stuff. If you need iron, you need to go to the Vermilius Gap, which is this massive orange zone in the middle of the map, which you'll be traveling to once you've finished up with Hagga Basin south. Iron can be found all over the Vermilius region. You are looking for this shiny silver ore, and once you farm it, you'll be able to get all the iron that you need. Farm it up, give it a good old scan and cut with your cutaway, and you'll be able to get lots of iron ore for all your crafting needs. There is no particular hotspots for it because it changes every week with a Coriolis storm, but you can find iron everywhere. To farm iron, at minimum you're going to need a Cutteray MK1, but when you can make it, a Cutteray MK2 will up the amount of iron that you can farm and give you access to carbon and erythrite. To get carbon, you need to go to any of the Jabal regions or Hagga Rift. Here's a map reference for the entire area where you can find this juicy carbon ore. If you want exactly where I'm at, I'm along this strip in Jabal al-Ghab. But it shouldn't really matter where because the resources change every week on their location, but it will be scattered throughout this biome in a very good quantity. The carbon ore looks like this, and for it you're going to need a certain cutteray to get through it, being the MK2, which gives you carbon and erythrite farming abilities. And once you've got in yourself some steel, you'll be able to unlock the MK3, which will give you even more carbon and erythrite. And then once you're swimming in lots and lots, you can consider a buggy MK3 assembly to be able to farm this stuff via buggy, which is highly worth it, and I highly recommend it to the absolute tooth and nail. You're of course going to need a utility rear. Don't bother making the normal rear, just make the utility one. And attach a buggy cutteray MK3 to be able to farm it, and this can farm up to carbon and erythrite, but if you want better resources you'll need a better buggy cutteray. Yeah, it's great stuff, and this will enable you to unlock steel tier and give you lots and lots of carbon.
A large sandstorm is approaching.
Thank you, Sandstorm, for interrupting. The reason I took the socks off of a buggy is because of the inventory space and how nice it is to farm it. So I'll go into the mining laser in this one. I'm just soloing it right now, and I'm going to hit it with this, and you're seeing I'm farming so much carbon ore. Now I do have quite a good buggy, but you will still get loads, and you can see compared to my really good cutteray versus my really good buggy, I got a lot more carbon ore with the buggy than I can get by hand. Either way, I better get us some shelter before this sandstorm comes, because otherwise I'm gonna be toast. For Erythrite crystals, it's a slightly different process, and you're gonna have to head into the depths of the Hagga Rift, and that means all of this strip can have Erythrite crystals. There are caves, there are mining facilities, but my favorite spots honestly is just driving around the different chome mineral extraction facilities. For me to get into the rift, because my base is on the middle side, I like to go down one of these entrances. You can literally just throw it in the rift if you really want to, but there are multiple ways to get into the Hagga Rift. I'm entering from my entrance, so I'm going to go to the chome facilities, and I basically like just going throughout the chasm and going to these different entrances of the chome mineral facilities and getting a bunch of erythrite crystals. It is very nice. Okay, we're in the Hagga Rift, and I can already see my first mineral extraction facility on the left, and there's red crystals right there. Now when you first come on here, you most definitely do have a sand bike, and that's how you'll first get your first bits of erythrite crystal. I do highly recommend a buggy once you've gotten it, because it's very handy for the extra range for the high crystals. So here's the crystal right up on the wall. I'm going to jump up, and you're going to see the nice juicy crystal. We can go ahead and we can just farm it up a bit. Very nice, and they're a little bit difficult to hit on the wall. That's my only problem with farming this way. I got quite a nice bit of erythrite crystal. I'm going to go ahead and drop that off in the buggy. And then you can enter these facilities once you've got the stuff on the outside that you want, and hopefully find some nice stuff on the inside, which there's some there now. Which this might be a little bit difficult to do by hand up there and get a proper scan. So this is where the laser comes in really nice, and you can get a lot of erythrite crystal with your laser beam. Within all of these little track areas with the mineral extraction facilities as well, when you're getting your first bits of erythrite crystal, You can find these little compartments in the middle of the mineral extraction facilities, which you can enter. Some are irradiated, some are not, but they are very handy for farming on foot, but often or not very good for getting in on trucks. The other recommendation I'm going to give, and this is if you're on foot, is to go to this cave, the Rift Run Passage. It is very near Runaway Station and is quite near Anvil Island, so you can go there quite early. Within Rift Run Passage is some actual Erythrite crystals and some Erythrite crystal crumbs if you like them. For aluminium, you're looking to go to the shield wall, whether that's the eastern or the western side, and you can get it in the Udam as well, but the best place is definitely the shield wall. My favourite route for farming is actually right outside the Crossroads trade post, and I go up this entrance here by the Iron Watch, and there's like a nice little path you can zigzag up and get lots of aluminium and go round. It's either that or you can farm a nice amount around Helios Gate as well, and there's some nice routes you can go around this mountain and get some nice aluminium deposits. For aluminium, you're going to need a Cutteray MK3, and then once you've got some aluminium, you can also make the industrial Cutteray MK4 to give you a bigger yield and to be able to craft Jasminium. And here's the little farming route I like to take. So we go up into this area on the eastern shield wall. There's a camp up above, but there's a little lane you can go down here for some basalt and aluminium. Oh, it looks like somebody else is farming it right now as well. That is hilarious. But yeah, basically we want to go up here, we want to farm some nice aluminium deposits, and you can get a lot in a truck. Now you don't have to use a truck, but I do highly recommend, I don't know why I keep calling it a truck, use a buggy, buggy truck, whatever you like. You can get a lot of the resource using one of those, and you can also use the Cutteray once you got that as well, which will give you a decent amount of resources, but not quite as good as your useful lovely buggy. Do remember, for aluminium tier, you're going to need to use a buggy Cutteray MK4 to farm the stuff, as the previous Cutteray will not cut this stuff up. It's only the MK4. However, in good news, you can attach an MK4 buggy Cutteray to an MK3 body. You can also find these drills for free in the testing station number 142 in the eastern shield wall just above Helios Gate. Now, of course, if you're looking for basalt, it's exactly the same as aluminium. You can find it in exactly the same places, which is in the shield wall. So you just go throughout the same route and go and farm here to be able to make your plastone. For duralinium tier, you need to go to a place called the Sheol, which is this green radiation area, which you're going to need a radiation suit to go in. It looks like this, and I would highly recommend using an ornithopter to go here, or a buggy. So when you're in this biome, you are looking for these green pools that have jasmium in them. So like this one down here has a bunch of jasmium in it, and there's a pool over there just to the side of it that also has a bunch of jasmium in it. So for a little map reference for the jasmium, you can see this little island here in the Sheol, that little island there, which is right next to the Delphus, and there's just a bunch of these little islands around here that all contain jasmium. Even the really big islands with these caves on them have smaller little pockets of jasmium. So we're heading to this big old goopy spot. Now, what I'm going to tell you is absolutely do not touch the green goop, because it will up your radiation meter exponentially, which will be really bad and put you in a near-death state. Now, if it is all red, you can hold down T and check here, and it will tell you how much radiation you have before you're instantly on your knees and out of the game. For jasmium, you're going to need an industrial Cutteray MK4 to farm the stuff, and then once you've got some duralinium, you'll be able to make the MK5. So you want to come up to this jasmium and not touch the green goop, and then hit it with the Cutteray to be able to get some juicy ore. Now, it is really heavy, and I mean the first bits of jasmium you get are okay to farm with an ornithopter, but ideally later on you want to be looking at getting a buggy, bringing it over here, and then farming jasmium this way. And the place I like to cross is in between Manor's Folly, and then you just cross across this bit of sand here to get into the Sheol with a buggy, and you can do that quite safely. You could also take the northern route if you really wanted to. It's a little bit more risky, but that's up in Mesa to Rill, and then you would go from the Crossroad trade post all the way down this island area into the Sheol to farm. I have a full video that goes over farming in the Sheol if it helps for a farming route, and I'll put that in the end cards of the video. For titanium and stravidium ore, you will need to travel to the deep desert. This will help you with the plastinium tier items and making anything in here like plastinium ingots and completing any weapons or workstations that you need. It's not so simple to show you a location on where to exactly get it in the deep desert though, because this thing changes every week, meaning the locations change every week. I can give you an estimate where it will be though, and show you where mine is this week, so you can have a look if you really want to. We'll go over PvE and PvP. So for the deep desert in the PvE areas, the safe areas to farm is in B, C, D, and the bottom half of E. Those locations are all PvE and you can farm there. However, it won't be as much as you can get in the PvP areas. So I'm a bit bopping around the top of D2 right now, and I will say the closer you get to the PvP border, probably the better the resources that you will get and find. And you can see on this little island here, I actually have a Strav and a titanium close together. Now they are quite far and few between, I will say, in the PvE area, but they are existing. And it may also depend how resource dense your region is. So you can see the region I'm in right now is really good for scrap and fuel cells, as that is a tier 3. But our Strav and titanium is not so common around here. For these resources, you're going to need a decent enough cutter aid to be able to farm them. You either need something like I have, like a unique cutter aid called a tile cutter aid that cuts titanium and stravidium, or you at least need to invest in an MK5 cutter aid that can also do titanium and stravidium. It will take about 45 minutes currently in the game for these nodes to respawn. That's my part where I think they need to kind of like up it a bit, and it may very well be upped by the time you watch this video. But yeah, the bottom half of E and the top half of D is probably where I would look the most for stravidium clusters and titanium. Now when it comes to PvP and we're looking for mega islands with lots of resources on, I would look at the top 2 sections for these. This week I received my titanium islands in I2, and you can see it's a tier 3 common resource. The previous week I actually got a lot more in H5, I believe it was. That was my previous week of those dense islands. So I'd say the regions you probably most want to look in is probably like the I's and the H's when it comes to these mega cluster islands. That being said, they are pretty much anywhere, and you could probably check somewhere like Planetologist or scout around the map to see for these locations on where they are most common. I'll leave a link in the description for the Planetologist app thing that is quite handy. Yeah, let me show you what I mean by high concentration islands. Like lots and lots of stravidium on that island, and then if I dip over to these in I2, there is a ton of titanium all over them. They are really nice. You see loads of titanium on that one. I'll just head up here. You can see loads of them. It's absolutely wild. And then if I go over to this island, you can really see it on this island. Absolutely coated in titanium. Coming with an assault ornithopter or a transport ornithopter would have given me a lot more, but you can see I was able to farm a decent amount with my little scout ornithopter. Either way, that is all the metal and ores in the game currently. Let me know where your favourite spots to farm are in the comments down below. And consider subscribing and smashing a like on the video. If this video helped you out today, it would help me out a ton. Either way, thank you so much for watching. I love you, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye!